Yeah, no, like I'm pretty sure a doctor's not supposed to use more than one finger. What? Oh, Welcome back to Tech Tuesdays, and today we're continuing on from the MSI laptop, as I'm going to be kind of putting it back to the direction that I initially wanted it for, was for video editing, but recently, due to not doing any further business with infiltrating, I was using the laptop primarily for gaming at this point, but now that I no longer really have a reason to leave the house anymore, I'm going to be putting it back to kind of a full video editing laptop. I'm going to kind of leave gaming out of that, and only going to be running Windows on it. For now. I don't really have much more to say about that other than we're cleaning it up inside, changing thermal compound, dust, just general maintenance, tightening some screws, and we're also going to be changing the M.2 to a faster NVMe drive. Then we'll do a clean install of Windows, run a boot test. It's not going to be anything crazy, but this is just the direction the laptop's going, so let's get into that. Now all we gotta do here is take all the screws out. Pry tool. This here is the M.2, which I can already tell this is actually just SATA, it's not NVMe. I'll have to take it off that silicone pad. It doesn't actually say anywhere on it what it is. This is down here, Samsung Electronics Co. So I'm assuming it's Samsung. And it's a PM871A, so this is an 870 series. However, because it has the two keys in the connector, I can tell that this is just a SATA drive. So this isn't NVMe. Now we can take the SX6000NP 256GB. This is NVMe. You can see that it only has the one key on the connector, whereas this one has two. So this one's SATA, this one's NVMe. This is the one out of the Aorus Omega, so we already have the heat spreader on the wrong way, because this was lining up with the motherboard, and on the laptop it goes this way, so it's going to be upside down. That's that. Now we have NVMe, 16GB of RAM, 2TB hard drive. Now we can play with this. Unplug the fans right here. Wi-Fi wires, we have to disconnect the display cable. Kind of wrapped up with the fan. Wi-Fi antennas are removed, display cables are removed. That's it. There we are. Get some rubbing alcohol and a cotton swab. Now let's start cleaning. A good way to tell when your thermal compound's no good is it's hard and it comes off in these chunks. When you put it on, it's paste. So if it comes off in chunks, it's dried out. It means it's not doing anything anymore. So this stuff is long overdue. Nearly 10 months. It's too long for the stock thermal compound. Right here on the die itself, you can even see that it's coming off in chunks. Here we are, all clean. Okay, so this is just a personal preference. You don't have to do this, I just like to do it for the safest measure. But when you put thermal compound on the integrated heat spreader, there's a lot of controversy about how it works. However, when you're doing a laptop, there is no integrated heat spreader. The heatsink goes directly on the die, which means that if you put a blob in the middle and it doesn't get to the edges, the entire die isn't actually covered, so you're not getting the best thermal dissipation. So I like to just dab on there to get full coverage. So just very thin dabs. There we go. Okay, there we are. Both of those are done. Now I'm just going to put this aside while we do the other one. it. Clean as can be. Now I am going to clean the fans while I'm in here. So what we got here. Oh, it's actually really clean. We just had a tiny little bit of dust in the corner. But otherwise it's fairly spotless. Clean the surface dust off just to keep it from building up. And there we are. Put that back. Now I'm going to switch to a 00. These screws, because they were a little bit hard to get out with the 0 bit. 00 is the size you need for the fans. So let's open this one up. Let's see what we got here. Oh, got some dust in this one. Still not that bad. I've definitely seen a lot worse, but this is bad for me. Alright, so that wasn't that bad at all. It's all nice and clean in there now. So let's put the screws back in. Put that on. But before we do, I like to go over all of the screws just to make sure everything's tight. Wow, and that was not at all. I got almost a full turn into that battery screw. So this is why you should take your laptop apart and clean it. These screws just come loose over time. That one was a little bit loose. So that was 2 loose screws. Nope, nothing. Oh, that was quite a bit. My hard drive install. Oh, that one came loose too. Okay, so that's everything. Thermal compounds. Good. Now we can install the heatsink. Now, there we go, so we can put this back on. Put these cables back through. Plug that fan in. Plug this fan in. Here we can plug the display cable back in. And then the Wi-Fi antennas. That's it. Now we can start putting all the screws back in. That's it. We are ready to go. Actually, one thing here, let me take this off so we can get a better look at it. So this is just the factory battery for the laptop. Nothing crazy about it. Regular battery. This is 51 watt hour, 10.86 volts, 4,730 milliamp hours. I'm assuming that we should be able to take this apart and remove the cells, because these are just 18650 cells, and we might be able to find some higher capacity ones, like the kinds that people use for vaping. And if that's the case, then we should be able to make our own battery pack of higher capacity that still fits in the stock form factor. So that'll be for a later day, and we'll either make a new battery pack or the laptop's gonna blow up. So now just making sure that the audio jacks get plugged in first, right about there. There we are. And then everything else after that just lines right up. Perfect. There we are. So right here I'm picking the M.2 that we just installed, 256 gig, and now we're installing Windows. Okay, so I'm going to get all of the drivers and everything set up, do the updates, and then once we're fully up to date and everything's ready to go, I'll bring it back so we can do a boot test. Everything's done, latest Windows, all of the drivers are installed. So now let's do the boot test right now. Alright, so we improved it about 2 seconds. So that NVMe is a lot faster than the SATA M.2. So let's open IDA64 and hardware monitor. The idle temps are fluctuating quite a bit for some reason. We're getting anywhere from 39 all the way up to 54. So they're kind of figuring themselves out. But the temperature at boot was 36 degrees. So let's start this stress test. Oh, there we go, got stress test going. So far, 0 CPU thermal throttling. And so far the max temperature that it's reached here was 90 degrees Celsius on the package, and then as for the cores, we have 89 degrees, 76, 91, and 77. But it's already maintaining temperature in the high 70s and low 80s. 100% processor usage. The integrated GPU are at 75 degrees there, and it peaked at 76, but it seems to be maintaining that as well. And the GPU is at 74 and peaked at 74, so that might still be going up. Well, we have thermal throttling detected. It's currently at 0% still, 10%. Okay, so this is right about the same time that we had the last one. We're almost at 11 minutes now doing the stress test. We have 38% CPU throttling. However, we are still maintaining right around 3100 megahertz. That's still 400 megahertz more than the factory clock speed, so we are still turboing. Now, the temperatures are really high. We're still getting low 90s, mid 80s, right in there. However, the package is still fluctuating right between 93 and 97. So that's exactly what it was at before. But then if we come down here to the integrated GPU, we're at 82 degrees, 83, seems to be fluctuating between there, peaked at 83, and the dedicated GPU is at 82 degrees. And then if we look at the clock speeds here, we've only lost about 100 megahertz. So I'm going to call this a win, because we drastically improved how it was from factory. On thermal throttling peaked at 50 while we were talking. So that's still really high, and now I'm kind of thinking if this is an airflow limitation. Because I know on the bottom of this laptop it has a lot of vents, but only a few of them are actually open. So we may be able to make some of those vents bigger to increase the amount of airflow into this computer, which may also help with the thermals. But as for now, what I do with this laptop, this is more than enough. So maybe at a later date we can look into a different type of compound. Definitely not putting liquid metal on this, as I do not trust liquid metal with seeping issues if I were to leave the laptop on its side for a long time, like in my bag. Well, that wraps that up. So as you can see, that wasn't a significantly hard job. It wasn't even really time consuming. It was pretty straightforward. And from the previous video on this laptop, going from a 10-second boot time into an 8-second boot time, just switching to an NVMe, it's not a huge improvement, but it's an improvement. So I'm still calling that a win. Now, as for the thermal throttling issues, I'm hopefully going to be getting back into that if I can figure out some kind of, I guess you could call it a CNC attachment for a rotary tool, so that way I can have perfectly up and down direction on it to cut out the vents that are already there. They're just not open. I'm not even sure if you'd call them vents. They're just there for aesthetic. They just look like vents, but they're not. I'm assuming they didn't cut them out for structure because they are right in the middle of the laptop, and you put it on something, they'll probably break. So when we cut those out, we'll try and brace them, but it's not a huge thing if it even happens at all. So I'm not going to bore you with the details here, as it may not actually happen if I can't figure something out for that. But I'm trying to keep this short, so that's going to be it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video or dislike it if that's how you felt. Share the video if that's something that you want to do. But as for me, I'll see you guys back here in the tech shop on Tuesday.